Hey, good day everybody, and welcome back to the sound booth. So the good news is that after 4 months of shutdown, we are finally getting back to church and being able to worship together. The bad news is if you're running the sound booth as we get back together, that you probably haven't been in the booth for 4 to 6 months, maybe longer, and because of that, you're probably pretty rusty on what we need to do. So this video is intended to help you get up to speed on what you need to know to run the booth, as well as helping you understand some changes that we're making, because we are going to be doing some things a little bit differently as we come back to church, and this will give you all the information you need to know. So I'd ask, watch the entire video before you go into the booth, but also if you check the description field below the video, you're going to find a list of topics that are covered in here and the times when they occur. So if you need to go back to review something, it should be fairly simple. So let's start out with the basics. So again, I'm sitting in the booth now, and if you see this space, it obviously is very small. It's not a socially distant space. So as we return, we will be running with one person in the booth, and that person will run both slides and sound. And that may sound a little bit scary, but we've kind of simplified some things and some processes, and we'll get you all up to speed with what you need to know. So again, sound and slides. We're going to start off by talking about sound. Welcome back, and thanks for serving. All right, let's start with sound. So first of all, when you come to the booth, please plan to arrive about 15 minutes early or so. Now the booth is going to be set up when you get here, sound check's done, slides loaded, everything turned on, ready to go. But that will give you a chance to look through the bulletin and the slides and just get yourself familiarized with it. When you get up to the booth, you're going to find a printed out copy of the bulletin that has been marked up. And so what you'll see if you take a look at this copy is for each of the sections of the service, there'll be a highlighted name of the person that's going to speak or play or lead that part. And underneath there, there'll be a reference to the microphone, or in some cases microphones, that are going to be used. So you've got a fairly clear reference. These mic names will exactly match what is on the soundboard. So we're updating the descriptions. These are known as scribble strips. And so the scribble strips will be updated to match this, so you won't have to kind of mentally translate that, hey, Pastor Steve is actually on the mic labeled Pastor Bates, etc. And so that should be fairly simple to use. Now let's take a look at the board again. So again, the board we've got is a Behringer X32, and the 32 means that this actually takes in 32 different input channels, everything from microphones, instruments, singing vocals, etc. It allows you to see them. Now, if we take a look at the board, one of the things you're going to notice is that on the left-hand side of the board where the channels appear, there's only 8 channels showing up as a time. And so these 32 channels are basically in 4 blocks of 8. And to access the 4 blocks, we're going to use these buttons over on the far left-hand side of the board. Okay, again, now there are 2 main things that you'll have to do when you run the soundboard, so it's fairly straightforward. One of those things is you're going to need to mute or enable mics so that they can be heard or not heard. That's a big thing. The other is volume control. So you will be the person that ultimately decides, hey, this is too loud or too soft, and update the volume accordingly. Let's start out with mutes. This is very simple, but a very quick review. You'll see that with each channel, there is a button on the board labeled mute. If that button is pressed and it turns red, that means that channel is muted. It won't be heard over the speakers. If the button is pressed again and it does not turn red, it's not lit, that means that channel is live. And so this is obviously one of the big things you need to do. Timing on this is important, and frankly, of all the things that you'll do in the booth, this is probably the highest priority of just getting the timing on this right. You want to make sure that you enable somebody's mic before they start to speak. So for example, if David was singing and Pastor Hansen is going to take the stage just afterwards, maybe to do a scripture reading, you want to make sure that as Pastor Hansen is the song is starting to wind down, Pastor Hansen gets up and he starts to come to the stage, that you hit that mute button and enable him, turn his mute off, basically before he tries to speak, or it's going to cut him off. So as soon as he starts to get up, starts to come up to the stage, the song starts to wind down, hit that button and go ahead and enable his mic. Now, sometimes what you're going to notice on the bulletin is that there may be 2 mics that are used. A good example of this is perhaps David singing and needing a vocal mic, but also an organ or piano accompaniment to him. And we will have a mic on that as well. And you'll say, well, why do we need a mic on the organ? You can hear the organ very loudly in a church, and you can. But remember that we will also be filming these services for online worshipers. And so the online worshipers can't hear unless the mic is on. So in many cases, or in some cases, you will see two mics. Make sure that they're both turned on or turned off. And that's what you need to do on sound. For volume control, again, it's fairly simple. But all I'm really asking you to do is listen. Does it sound too loud? Turn the volume down. Does it sound too soft? Turn the volume up, etc. Fairly straightforward. There's a lot of ways to control volume on the board. There's two main things you just need to look at. First of all, as you can see with each of the channels, there is a fader that allows you to move it up to increase volume or down to decrease. Fairly straightforward, and that will only affect that channel. So if everything sounds pretty good, but Pastor Steve is a little bit loud, you can go ahead and move his fader down. You'll change his volume, but nobody else's. The other, over on the far right-hand side of the board, is the main fader. That controls the sound on everything. You can also use that to turn sound up or down, but just remember that it affects everything. If Pastor Steve is loud and you turn him down on that, you're also going to turn down David, Emma, Pastor Hanson, anyone else that will be speaking. So in general, you're going to use probably the channel fader, but in the case where everything just sounds really loud or really soft, use the main fader to turn it up or down. That really is all you need to know about running sound. Fairly straightforward. All right, let's talk about slides now. And slides are actually fairly simple. You will be responsible really for two things. One is just transitioning from slide to slide to keep up with the order of the service. And the other is showing a video, and this is a little bit different, but it's fairly simple. For the children's messages, again, for social distancing, instead of having all the kids come up to the stage, we're actually going to show a pre-recorded video of the children's message. And so you will need to run that video at the appropriate part. Again, fairly simple. We'll walk you through it right now. For starters, let's take a look at the computer screen and just refamiliarize yourself a little bit with the screen. We use a program called ProPresenter to show our slides. A lot of you probably use PowerPoint at work, at home, for school, whatever. This is similar to PowerPoint, but a little bit different. So we've got a couple of distinct areas of the screen. First of all, here in the upper right-hand side of the screen, this is our slide area. So you will see the slides, and one of them will be highlighted, and that shows what's currently coming out on the projector. But the rest of the slides for the slide set are shown in there as well. Below that, you'll see a bunch of boxes, and this is where our video will show up. So our video is always going to be in the upper left-hand side of there, and you can see right now there's one of Pastor Steve right there ready to go. But that's where our video will be. And so clicking down there will bring that up. Finally, in the upper left-hand side of the screen, there is basically a pane that shows what's coming out on the projector now. Not very useful because, again, you can just lift your head up and take a look at the screen from the sound booth to see what's actually out there. But you can also, when the video is up, you'll see there's a little pause control up there, and you can use that same thing to pause the video as well. Now, like I said, ProPresenter is a little bit different than PowerPoint, and so sometimes because of that, when you transition, say, from a slide to a video or vice versa, extra things will be left on the screen that you don't really want. If we look at the upper left-hand corner of the ProPresenter screen, we're going to see a thing with a big X labeled Clear All, and this is actually your best friend when you're running slides. When you are transitioning, if you see something you don't like on the screen and you don't know how to get rid of it, hit the Clear All button. Everything will go away. The screen will turn blank and black, and then you can click on the slide or the video that you actually want, and everything will come out okay. So always remember Clear All. It's your most important friend in this. So let's talk through slide transition. Fairly straightforward. Again, we can take a look at the slide area of the screen. One of them is highlighted. The way that we're making the screens as we return to church, the slides, they basically map out to almost an outline of the bulletin. So it's fairly simple to look at your printed bulletin, look at the slides, and tell kind of what goes where and when you need to advance. For me, the easiest way to advance is with the left and right arrow keys on the keyboard. You don't have to worry about where the cursor's at. One of these slides is highlighted. Clicking the right arrow key will bring you forward. Clicking the left arrow key will bring you backwards. Very easy and painless, and you never have to worry too much about the screen and where your cursor's at, your mouse is at, etc. All very good. Let's talk about running video, because this is a little bit different, and we're going to go through the sequence here. But basically what we're going to walk through is to run that video. It's in the video area of the screen as we saw before. I've got a slide up on the screen right now, and Pastor Steve or somebody will announce that, hey, we're going to now transition over to children's message. I'm going to hit clear all to clear the screen and turn it black, and then I'm going to go ahead and click that video once, and as soon as I click that, it's going to come up and start playing. Very straightforward. When it's done, again, I'm going to click the clear all to get rid of it, and then click back into the slide that I want. So it's a fairly straightforward process. One thing to remember, that sound for the video, that even though you're controlling it from the computer, sound for the video will come through the soundboard. So back on that first page where we've got all the pastor's mics, we've got a channel 7 and 8 that are labeled PC, and they're actually a left and right stereo channel for our computer sound. So in order for you to hear sound in the video, you'll need to have those channels unmuted, and you'll have to turn up the faders so that the volume is audible. We'll preset all that stuff before you come, but kind of same rule as before. If you feel like you need to change that, go ahead and do it to make it louder or softer, and that's really all you need to do and all you need to know. That's really it for running slides. So when you're done, if you finish, thank you very much for your service first of all, but when you're done, you're basically done and free to go. When the service is over, you can feel free to leave. We will go ahead, Emma and myself will go ahead and shut down the booth, get everything saved away and loaded and put away and powered down, and you don't have to worry about any of that. Basically, when you're done, you're all finished and ready to go. So see myself or Emma if you have any questions. Again, thank you so much for serving. Have a wonderful day, and thanks. Welcome back.